At an abandoned radio tower standing 600 meters high, two best friends find themselves trapped at the top, completely cut off from the outside world. With the tower isolated in the middle of a desert, the chances of rescue seem nearly impossible. Months before this harrowing event, Laura and her husband, Ben, embarked on a challenging rock climbing expedition with their close friend, Jenny. As they neared the summit, their excitement turned to horror when Ben lost his footing while trying to secure an anchor into a crevice. Startled, he slipped, and despite Jenny's frantic attempts to descend and assist him, Ben desperately swung his body to regain stability. Tragically, his backup anchor failed under the strain, sending him plummeting to his death. Nearly a year after the devastating loss, Laura remained deeply affected, drowning her sorrow in alcohol. Her father, James, grew increasingly concerned and repeatedly urged her to move on, but she ignored his pleas. Feeling as if her life was beyond repair, Laura even contemplated ending it with sleeping pills. However, an unexpected call from Jenny the next day changed everything. Jenny visited Laura and invited her to join an extreme climb up a towering radio mast over half a kilometer high, hoping to reignite her friend's passion for life. Still haunted by Ben's death, Laura initially refused, but the next morning, she recalled her husband's words, "Live like Larry," inspired by his message. She changed her mind and agreed to go. While looking through Jenny's old photos on her phone, Laura noticed an image of a man's hand wrapped around her friend's waist. Seeing Jenny so happy in the picture, Laura grew curious and asked about the man, but Jenny quickly changed the subject. Meanwhile, James kept trying to contact Laura, but she continued to ignore him. After hours of driving, the two friends arrived at the only motel in the area to rest and grab a meal. While waiting for their food, Jenny shared that she had become a content creator, earning a good income from her videos, which kept her traveling frequently. During their conversation, Jenny asked a staff member about the tower's location, and they learned that it was the fourth tallest structure in the US. When Laura realized that charging her phone wasn't free at the motel, Jenny showed her a trick using a light fixture, a makeshift power outlet. The following morning, Laura woke up to find herself in Ben's arms. Her husband gently tapped 1 for 3 on her hand, their secret code for "I love you," but suddenly, she noticed blood on the blanket. In that instant, she realized it was just a dream. As they prepared to continue their journey, Laura was taken aback by Jenny's revealing outfit. Jenny casually explained that dressing this way helped attract more viewers to her videos. Once inside the car, Jenny immediately began recording an introduction for her vlog, announcing their destination, though she didn't upload it right away. However, she got so caught up in filming that she lost focus, nearly causing their car to collide with a passing truck. Upon arriving at the tower's location, they found the area fenced off with warning signs prohibiting entry due to extreme danger. Ignoring the warnings, they climbed over the barrier and continued forward. Along the way, they stumbled upon a flock of vultures feasting on a deer carcass. Jenny, always eager to document everything, snapped a photo and uploaded it to social media. Within moments, the post racked up likes from her followers. When they finally reached the base of the tower, Laura became visibly anxious. Jenny, determined to push her forward, encouraged her to face her fears. Once Laura steadied herself, they secured their safety harnesses to each other and began their ascent up the dilapidated structure. Not long into the climb, Laura, trailing behind Jenny, suddenly gasped as a rusty ladder rung snapped in her grip and fell. Despite the shock, she pressed on. After some time, they reached the tower's midsection, where Laura, feeling parched, asked for the only bottle of water Jenny had packed. As they approached the main ladder leading to the peak, the fierce winds at this height unnerved Laura. Jenny reassured her that they only had 60 meters left to go. Motivated by Jenny's words, Laura pushed forward, now climbing an exposed section that was far more terrifying than before. To distract her from fear, Jenny suggested she sink. Their progress was briefly halted by a large transmitter blocking part of the ladder. Seizing the opportunity to capture thrilling content, Jenny maneuvered around it and then helped Laura across. Wanting to tease Laura, who looked nervous again, Jenny playfully shook the ladder. Unbeknownst to them, the jolt loosened a critical bolt, which fell unnoticed. Just before they reached the top, another sudden shake caused the final bolt securing the structure to detach. Jenny, unaware of the imminent danger, pulled Laura up onto the tower's narrow peak. Exhausted but exhilarated, they immediately celebrated their achievement by taking photos and recording videos. Unsatisfied with ordinary footage, Jenny revealed that she had brought a drone, which she launched to capture stunning aerial shots, aiming to increase audience engagement. To make her content even more gripping, she recklessly performed extreme poses atop the tower while Laura piloted the drone. After securing the footage she wanted, Jenny urged Laura to try the same stunt. But as Laura peered over the edge, fear took hold, and she refused. Jenny insisted that this was the only way for Laura to conquer her fear, promising to hold her hand the entire time. Laura finally agreed, trusting Jenny completely. She let herself dangle from the edge, holding onto her friend's hands while Jenny snapped a photo. Quickly, Jenny pulled her back up before she could slip. Congratulating Laura on overcoming her fear, they refocused on their main goal, scattering Ben's ashes. Laura whispered her final goodbye, making the moment deeply emotional. With their mission complete, they prepared to descend, securing their harnesses as before. Laura went first, carefully stepping onto the ladder. But just as she placed her foot down, the entire structure gave way. She screamed in terror as the ladder detached. Jenny, equally shocked, reacted instantly, gripping the safety rope tightly and anchoring herself to a nearby beacon to pull Laura back up. After surviving the terrifying moment, they laughed in relief until they realized the full extent of their situation. The ladder was completely gone, leaving them stranded. Desperate for another way down, they checked their phones, only to discover there was no signal at this height. Trying to stay calm, Laura noticed a small storage box attached to the tower and found a pair of binoculars and a flare gun inside. Their situation worsened when they spotted Laura's bag containing their only water supply angling precariously from a transmitter below. Seeing Laura start to panic, Jenny reassured her that someone must have heard the ladder crash and that help would arrive soon. As they debated their next move, they suddenly noticed Laura had sustained a deep wound on her leg from the earlier fall. To prevent excessive bleeding, Jenny quickly removed her shirt and tied it around Laura's injury as a makeshift bandage. With no idea when help might arrive, they passed the time by recording videos. Laura, growing curious, asked Jenny why she had become a content creator. Hesitant at first, Jenny admitted that after Ben's death, she realized life was fleeting and wanted to inspire others to seize every moment. Hours later, Jenny checked her phone again, remembering that she had successfully posted a photo before they started climbing. This sparked an idea. She typed a plea for help on her social media account and secured her phone to a rope, lowering it as far down as possible in hopes of catching a signal, but it didn't work. Determined to send the message, they decided to drop the phone to the ground. They wrapped it in Jenny's shoe, adding layers of padding to cushion the impact. As they waited for a response, Laura absent-mindedly used the binoculars and spotted a small tattoo on Jenny's ankle, 143. The secret code she and Ben used to say, "I love you." Before she could question it, Jenny suddenly pointed downward, diverting Laura's attention. Below them, a man with a dog had appeared near the base of the tower. Without hesitation, they screamed for help at the top of their lungs. Because of the extreme height, the man below didn't hear their desperate screams. Laura even threw both of her shoes to get his attention, but he remained oblivious. His dog, however, briefly sniffed Jenny's shattered phone and looked up, but the man simply walked away. Panicked, Laura almost fired the flare gun, their only shot at signaling for help, but Jenny stopped her, insisting they wait until nightfall for maximum visibility. Using the binoculars, they spotted the man heading toward a parked caravan, where another person was waiting. As night fell, Jenny noticed the caravan preparing to leave. Seizing the moment, she urged Laura to fire the flare while she waved her phone's flashlight. The two men finally noticed them and immediately drove toward the tower. Jenny was overwhelmed with relief as the men stepped out, carrying tools seemingly to open the locked gate. But to her horror, instead of helping, they smashed the window of her car, stealing everything inside before speeding away. Devastated, Jenny and Laura sank into silence, crushed by hopelessness. Amid the quiet night, Laura couldn't shake her curiosity about Jenny's tattoo. Gathering her courage, she finally asked. With no way to hide the truth anymore, Jenny confessed she had an affair with Ben for 6 months before Laura's wedding. Overcome with guilt, Jenny apologized, admitting she had fallen in love with the same man as her best friend. She insisted it happened in a moment of weakness, fueled by heavy drinking, and assured Laura that it had ended before the wedding. But the damage was done. Laura, heartbroken, felt utterly betrayed. Time passed in heavy silence until Laura's phone alarm rang, marking 24 hours since they dropped Jenny's phone. The lack of a rescue response confirmed their worst fear. The message had failed to send. With dehydration worsening, Jenny made a desperate decision. She would retrieve their bag stuck on the transmitter. Using a makeshift rope, she carefully lowered herself. But when the rope fell short, she had no choice but to unclip her harness and swing toward the bag. Miraculously, she succeeded, gulping down water in relief. But when she prepared to climb back, she realized the rope was out of reach. Thinking quickly, she extended a selfie stick to hook onto it and secure the bag before attempting the dangerous lead back onto the rope. Summoning all her strength, Jenny jumped, barely catching hold of the rope. With Laura pulling from above, she climbed as fast as she could. Just as she neared the remaining ladder, disaster struck. Her grip slipped. She plummeted, completely unprotected. Laura's heart stopped. Terrified, she forced herself to look down, bracing for the worst. Against all odds, Jenny had survived her fall, broken by the bag she had just retrieved. But her hands were brutally injured. Summoning every ounce of strength, Laura pulled her up with all her might. After rescuing Jenny, Laura quickly drank some water and wrote a distress message to send to the inn using their drone. However, before it could leave the tower's vicinity, the drone's battery drained rapidly, forcing them to turn it back before it crashed. Later that night, Laura woke up to a horrifying sight: vultures feasting on Jenny's corpse. But it was just a nightmare. Relieved to see Jenny still beside her, she calmed down. Looking up at the tower light, Laura suddenly remembered a trick Jenny once taught her about charging devices using a lamp socket. At dawn, she painstakingly climbed the pole, unscrewed the bulb, and plugged in the drone's charger. Since the cord wasn't long enough to reach the ground, she had to endure the blistering heat while waiting for the battery to charge. As her wound bled, the scent attracted vultures, forcing her to fend them off. In this struggle, her bag slipped and fell, but oddly, Jenny didn't react to catch it. Once the drone was fully charged, Laura quickly descended and launched it toward the inn, pinning all her hopes on this final attempt. Just when it neared its destination, a passing truck smashed into it, leaving it useless. Defeated and out of options, Laura watched as vultures circled above, anticipating their inevitable demise. In the distance, a storm loomed closer. Dehydrated and weak, she wanted to sleep, but Jenny warned her not to, reminding her that falling unconscious could make her easy prey for the scavengers. Desperate, Laura asked for Jenny's other shoe to throw her own phone down as a last-ditch effort. But Jenny's response sent chills down her spine. She couldn't give the shoe because her body was still below. Laura froze. Reality hit her like a thunderbolt. Jenny had died during her fall. Her mind had been clinging to an illusion to cope with the unbearable truth. That explained why Jenny hadn't tried to catch the falling bag earlier. That night, Laura endured a raging storm. In its aftermath, barely clinging to life, she recorded a farewell message to her father, expressing deep regret for not listening to his advice and her desperate longing to return home. Meanwhile, James, worried sick, had begun searching for Laura, retracing her steps. By morning, Laura lay motionless, her body weak from exhaustion. Sensing vulnerability, a vulture pecked at her wounded leg until, in a shocking burst of survival instinct, she sprang up and caught the bird with her bare hands. She then ate it raw, regaining a surge of energy. Determined to escape, she secured a rope to the tower's ladder and descended to where Jenny's corpse was lodged. With her final ounce of strength, she placed her phone inside Jenny's shoe and tucked it into her lifeless friend's clothing before dropping the body. As it fell, Laura whispered an apology. Miraculously, the plan worked. Her father received the distress message and immediately contacted the authorities. When James arrived at the tower, he was overcome with grief, seeing rescue workers carrying a body bag, fearing it was his daughter. But then he turned. There, standing battered but alive, was Laura. Overwhelmed with relief, they embraced, reunited at last, though forever changed by the loss of Jenny.
Is short, too short. That would spread that